Hi everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this lady's top here. Now I would consider this intermediate because you need to know how to sew stuff together, panels and stuff. So the stitch itself isn't really hard. It's mainly triple crochet and double crochet, but that's what it looks like. I got it for size large, which is what I'll be doing in the video. Extra large, 2X, and 3X. I have it for no more sizes. That's the only sizes that I have available, but it looks the same on both sides. It is sewn up here, sewn down the sides. It's got a split here just for decoration. You can sew it all the way down if you prefer. And then the shoulders are sewed up separately right here on both sides. Now it's a form-fitting shirt, as you can see on my mannequin. If you don't like form-fitting, you might want to go up a size. I have all the measurements down below in the description box. So a large is size 38 around. Extra large would be 40. 2X would be 42 inches, and 3X would be 44 inches around. Okay, lengthwise, if you're doing a large, it's going to be about approximately from the shoulder down 25 inches. An extra large will be approximately 26 inches, and the 2X and 3X will be approximately 27 inches, but of course you can adjust the length to make it as long or as short as you like. Okay, for the gauge, it's 16 rows of single crochet equals 4 inches, and then 16 single crochet across equals 4 inches. So, okay, some people follow gauge. Yeah, 16 and then 16 is 4x4. Okay, for this project, I am using Lion Brand Comfy Cotton Blend. It is a 50% cotton, 50% polyester blend. There's 7 ounces or 200 grams per cake, 392 yards. It is a lightweight 3. I think it's a little bit thicker of a lightweight 3, but this is what I did the large, and this is my second ball, second cake. So I think 2 cakes will be enough for any of the sizes that I have available. So, and there's 392 yards per cake. Color I'm using is called Poppy. And then I'm going to be using a size J, which is a 6mm crochet hook. Now remember, down below in the description box, you'll find all the starting chains and stuff like that for the different sizes. Hopefully I don't confuse you too much. It's hard to record a video and have a bunch of different sizes available, but I'll do my best. Now, remember, I said I'm going to be doing the size large in my video. So, for size large, now this stitch is done in a multiple of 4, in case you want to use it for something else. But for size large, you want to chain 64. Extra large, you chain 68. 2X, you chain 72. 3X, you chain 76. Okay, now once you get your correct chain amount done, what we're going to do is we are going to put 1 single crochet in the second stitch from the hook. And then we're going to put 1 single crochet in every single stitch until you get to the end of your row. Just like this. So row 1 is just 1 single crochet in every stitch for the length of the chain. Okay, once you make it to the end of row 1, if you're doing a size large, you'll have 63 stitches. Extra large, you'll have 67 stitches. 2X, you will have 71 stitches. And 3X, you'll have 75 stitches. So we're going to go ahead, and for row 2, is we're going to chain 4, which counts as a triple crochet, and we're going to turn our work like that. Now I'm going to skip 2 stitches, so 1, 2, and in the next stitch we're going to do a shell. So what we're going to do for the shell is we're going to do skip 2, we're going to do a triple crochet into the next, another triple crochet into the same stitch, chain 2, and then a double crochet into that same stitch. That's what I'm calling a shell. So it's 2 triples, chain 2, and 2 triples. Now we're going to start the repeat. We're going to skip 3 stitches now. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to shell into the next. So skip your 3, skip, 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 and then in the next you work a shell. You work 2 triple crochets, chain 2, and then a double crochet into that same stitch. Just like that. Repeat it again. Skip 3, skip, 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 shell into the next. So 2 triples, chain 2, and 1 double. And we're going to repeat this until we get to the end of the row. Skip 3 stitches, shell into the next. So skip, 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 and then in the next we do our shell. 2 triples, chain 2, and 1 double. So go ahead and repeat this pattern until you get to the end of the row. Alright, when you make it to the end here, you'll have, I just did my last shell and I have 3 stitches left. Go ahead and skip 2 stitches and we'll end by putting a triple crochet into the last stitch. So you skip 2 and triple crochet into the last. And that'll end row 2. Now if you're doing a large, you'll have 15 shells. If you're doing an extra large, you'll have 16, 2x you'll have 17, and 3x you'll have 18. Okay, so row 3 is the repeat row, which is just a 1 row repeat for the rest of the main pattern part. So we're just going to chain 4, counts as a triple crochet, and turn our work. So we're going to put a shell in each one of these chain 2 spaces of the previous shell all the way across. So here's the first chain 2 space. Go ahead and work a shell right through the space. So 2 triples, chain 2, and then a double, and then we jump to the next chain 2 space of the next shell and work a shell again right through that chain 2 space, 2 triples, chain 2, and 1 double. Again, jump to the next shell, into the chain 2 space, work a shell, 2 triples, chain 2, and a double. And that's what we're going to repeat to the end of the row. We're working a shell in the chain space of each of the previous shells from the previous row, all the way across until you get to the end of the row. Alright, when you make it to the end, just did a shell in your last chain 2 space, we'll go ahead and end that row by triple crocheting into the top of our chain 4 right here from the previous row. And you'll still have, if you're doing a large, 15 shells, extra large 16 shells, 2x 17 shells, and 3x 18 shells. And that's what we're going to do now. We're just going to keep repeating row 3. So we'll just chain 4 again, turn our work, and we'll do a shell in each of the chain 2 spaces of the previous shell all the way across. And you always have the same number of shells depending on what size that you make. Now, if you're doing the large like me, you want to do a total of 24 rows. Extra large, you'll do 25 rows, and 2x and 3x, you'll do 26 rows. And then I'll meet back up with you when you get your appropriate amount of rows done. Okay, once you get as many rows as you need for the appropriate size And you can always make it longer or shorter if you hold it up to yourself and you know you want it longer or shorter. That's up to you. But remember, 24 rows is what we're on now for a size large. 25 rows for size extra large, and 26 rows for 2X, and 26 rows for 3X. So, but remember, you can adjust that. And now we are on our last row. So I'm working the size large, so I got my 24 rows done, and this will be my 25th one right here. So if we're working a large, with which I am, I'm going to show you what we're going to do here. And you'll do the same for the other sizes. You'll just make the sleeve a little bit longer. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 4 like we normally do. And we're going to work a shell into these first 3 chain spaces of the first 3 shells. Now this is for the large size. Oops. And then one more. Now, this is the large I'm doing, remember. Alright, I worked the 3 shells here for the large. And then what I want to do to end it, I want to skip these 2 stitches and triple crochet into the top of the next stitch. Now this is the large size, and then you tie this off. Now for the other sizes, you do the same thing, except for you do more shells. So if you're doing the extra large, you'll want to work over 4 shells, and then put 4 shells, and then skip 2 and triple crochet into the next. For the 2X, you will work over 5 shells, and for the 3X, you will work over 6 shells. Remember, all that information will be below in case you forget. So that is what it'll look like. And of course, it'll have more shells if you're doing the bigger sizes. Now we'll come over here to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing. So since mine's so large, I'm going to count in 3 shell spaces. 1, 2, 3. I'm doing 3 shells. Remember, if you're doing the extra large, you'll count in 4 shell spaces, and then 5 for the 2X and 6 for the 3X. But since I'm doing a large, I'm going to count in 3. And then you want to start 2, here's the shell space, 3 stitches over. So this one right here, you'll start a triple crochet in this one, and then you'll skip these 2, and then you'll work your shell into the first stitch. Does that make sense here? So we'll go ahead and, so I got my 3 shell chain spaces. See them? 1, 2, 3. I'll skip 2, and then I'll start into the next one. So that's where, this is where I'll start my yarn. So we're doing the same thing we did on the other side. We're just working it kind of backwards. So go ahead and start right there and work a chain 4. And then you'll skip those 2 stitches, skip, skip, and then we'll shell into the next stitch. So since I'm doing a large, I'll have 3 shells here. Remember, bigger or more shells if you do the bigger sizes. And then I'll shell into the next chain space here of the next shell. All right, one more. And then you end it the same way that you've ended every other row. Triple crochet into that last chain 4 space, and then that is what it will look like. Now I'm not going to tie off. I'm going to go around this whole panel with single crochet to clean it all up, plus it makes it easier to sew it together. So regardless of what size you're doing, we're going to do the same thing now. So once you get it red, this is what it looks like. You got 2 spots for the sleeves. I guess you call it the sleeves, just the shoulder area. That's a little bit tall, one row that's a little bit taller, and this right here will be the neck area. So now what we're going to do without tying off, we're going to chain one and we're going to work down the side of the panel. So I'm going to work 4 single crochets right through this chain space. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to work 4 single crochets through the next space. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to work 4 single crochets through every one of these spaces in between the last stitches here on the end, at the end of the row, like that. And all this is doing is going to clean up these edges, make them look neater, and it's going to make it a lot easier to sew it together. So 4 into this next space. This is the same on every size. We're just cleaning up all the edges. 4 into the next space. So we're going to work 4 single crochets in every one of these spaces all the way down the whole side until you get down here at the bottom. I'll meet you down here at this last chain space. Okay, I made it down my first side here and I'm at the bottom. I got 4 single crochet there in my last chain space. So now I'm going to work across the bottom here, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch, except for the very first stitch. I'm going to put 3 single crochet in it. That'll just help the corner lay flat. So regardless of what size you're doing, put 3 single crochet into that very first stitch here on the bottom. That. And now we'll work across, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch along the bottom. This will clean up the bottom edge. Like that. So we're going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch along the bottom of the top, the bottom of the shirt, like that. And then when we get over here, you'll put 3 single crochets into this last stitch, and then you'll continue working up the other side, putting 4 single crochets in every one of these chain spaces, just like we did on the other side. So that's what I'm going to do now. 1 single crochet in every stitch along the bottom till I get to the corner here. 3 single crochets into the corner, and then 4 single crochets in each one of these chain spaces all the way up until we get to the top of the shirt, and I will meet you right up here at the last chain space, and then we'll go across the shoulder area and the neck. Okay, I have made it to the top. Here's the top. You can see here's this one row where I have my 3 shells for my size large. You'll have more shells if you have the bigger size, but what I'm going to do now is in this very first stitch here, I got 4 single crochet here in this space. In the very first stitch here, I'm going to put 2 single crochets, just like that. And now I'm going to put 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet through this chain space, 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, 1 single crochet into the next chain space, and that's what I'm going to do until I get to the end here. Remember, you'll have more shells if you're doing a bigger size. It's 1 single crochet in every stitch and 1 single into the chain space of the shell. Alright, now when you made it all the way across and you have your last 2 stitches, you're going to put 1 single crochet into the last 2 stitches. Now we're going to work down the neck. So I'm going to put 4 single crochets right here through this chain space. You can spread those out a bit. Now I'm going to put 1 single crochet into the next chain space, so right here of the next shell. And I'm going to do the same thing. 1 single crochet in every stitch across the neck here. and 1 single crochet in the chain space of the shell. I'm going to do this all the way across. And this is just cleaning up the neck here, making it look a little bit cleaner. And you want to do this until you get over here to your last row where your shells start to, where you got your 3 shells up here if you're doing a large, 4 shells if you're doing extra large, 5 shells if you're doing the 2x, and you'll have 6 shells if you're doing a 3x. So I'll meet you back right over here. Alright, I've made it over here to the other side. I did a single crochet into the chain space of my last shell. Now we don't go into this double crochet that we started in. We just jump right over here to this chain space here, this space here, and we'll do 4 single crochets. So we're doing the same thing we did on the other side. And then 1 single crochet in each stitch and 1 single crochet into the chain space of each shell here across the top, just the same as we did on the other side, until we get to our last stitch. Remember, you'll have more shells if you're making the bigger size here. And then when you get to your last stitch here, go ahead and put 2 single crochets into the last stitch, and then we will end by slip stitching into our first single crochet here on this side, just like that. And we can tie that off, and now we want to make 2 panels the exact same way. So this is what it kind of looks like now. Here is the top. Now you can take it and you can kind of spread these single crochets out so they're not looking wavy. They just look kind of wavy because they'll spread out a bit once you get them sewed together and stuff. But here's the neckline here. So that's what it kind of looks like. So we need 2 panels the exact same way, and then we'll just sew them together. Okay, now once we get our 2 panels made, we want to make it where, let's see, we sew it together. We're going to sew it wrong side out, so that way when we flip it, it'll be right side out. So as you can see right here, this is 1 panel, and I have the right side of my stitches facing up right now. And then I'm going to take the other side of my panel, put it together, make sure your little shoulder areas match up at the top, and you want to put the wrong side of the single crochets facing up. So you got the 2 right sides of your work facing down like that, and then the 2 wrong sides are on the outside. And then when we get done sewing it together, we'll flip it right side out. So I'm going to sew it together with slip stitch. Now you can use a yarn needle if you want. It really doesn't matter how you sew it together, as long as it gets sewed together. Okay, now we got our work facing this way. Here is the shoulders right here. Okay, we're going to start sewing up this side first. Now we're going to skip for the armholes. We're going to sew up the sides before we sew up the shoulders. So let's see, for size large and extra large, you see these little holes here that we put the 4 single crochets in each one. You want to skip 9 for large and extra large. So you go through and you just count. Make sure to get in both pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And we'll start in the 10th hole for the large and extra large, and then for 2x and 3x we'll start in the 11th hole. So go ahead and make sure you're getting the same amount on both sides. Now I'm starting in my 10th hole. Remember, 10 for large and extra large, and then you start in the 11th hole for 2x and 3x. And if you feel like you want your armhole bigger, by all means you can leave as many holes open as you want. Just make sure you get the same on both sides. So what we're going to do, I'm in my 10th hole for my size. I'm going to start in the first stitch of that 10th hole, or somewhere pretty close to the first stitch, the best that you can. So it's this one right here. And what I'm going to do to sew it together, I'm going to go through that first loop only on that first stitch. And then on the other piece, the first stitch in that 10th hole, I'm going to go through the back loop only. Like that. Now, if you want to go through both loops, you can. It's going to really no difference. It's going to make a little bit of a, I think it makes it look cleaner doing it this way, but either way will work. If you can't get it to work this way, that's fine. So I went through both loops there. And I'm going to chain 1. Now I'm going to jump to the next 2 single crochets. I'm going to go through the first loop of the first single crochet, of the next single crochet, like that on this first piece. And on the other piece over here, I'm going to go through the back loop of it. And then I'm going to slip stitch. And this is what I'm going to do all the way down. So I'm going to go to the next stitch on this first panel and go through the first loop of it. And then the next single crochet on the back panel, and I'm going to go through the back loop of it. So you only got 2, you're only going through those, first loop on this one, the back loop on the other, slip stitch. And do that again. First loop only. And then back loop only on the back piece. And that's what I'm going to do all the way down. You want to make sure your stitches line up good so they match up at the end. Now I'm not going to go all the way down. I'm going to leave a split at the bottom. You don't have to do that. You can slip stitch it all the way up if you prefer. I'm going to do this all the way down, but I'm going to leave a split here at the bottom to where I don't sew it together and it splits open. You don't have to do that. Remember, you can do it. You can sew it all the way to the bottom if you want. You can leave like an inch split, a 2-inch split, a 3-inch split, whatever you want. I'm going to go down to, I'm going to leave approximately, see my holes here, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go to kind of go in the middle of the third one and leave like a 2.5-inch split, something like that. 2.5, 3-inch split, just approximately. But you don't have to do that. But I'm going to go ahead and work all the way down, slip stitching like I said, and I'll meet you down here at the end and I'll show you where I'm going to stop. Alright, I've made it down and you see here's these holes, 1, 2. I stopped about the middle of this third hole up. On both sides it's the same. And I'm going to leave that open to flare, but you don't have to do that. You can go all the way down or whatever you want to do. And I'm going to clip that off. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, sewing it together. Give that a little stretch. Go to the other side. The other side you'll probably have to start at the bottom and work your way up. So, since I started 1, 2 in the middle, I ended over there in the middle of the third hole. That's where I'm going to start. I'll work my way up until I get to, I started in my 10th hole for my arms, so I'll work my way up until I get to my 10th hole. Remember, if you're doing the bigger size, you'll need the 10th hole for the large, extra large, and 11th hole for the 2x, 3x. Of course, if you made your armhole bigger, whatever hole you made it to. So I'm going to go ahead and work my way up exactly the same way to make this side match that side. Okay, I've made it. Both sides are the same. Give it a little stretch. Let's sew up the top here. Whoa, sorry about that. Here. Everybody's sick with my camera skills here. Alright. to start in, bring up our corners here. Okay, here's where we put 4 single crochets into the corner, remember that? And then we put 2 single crochets into the first stitch. We're going to start where we put the 2 single crochets into that first stitch. We're going to start in that first single crochet there. So we're not going to put any into the 4 that we put on each of these holes. So look to where you put your 2 single crochets into this first stitch. You can count here if you want to help you. Remember, there'll be 4 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this will be my first single crochet of this stitch where I put 2 in it. I'm going to go through the first loop on it, and I'm going to do the same stitch, only the back loop, so on the other panel. So it always helps me to count to find out where I'm at. Just remember, we did 4 in this and then 2 into the first stitch. So right here's my first stitch. Go into the back of that, and we're going to sew this up the same way, slip stitch in it. So chain 1, go into the next stitch, front loop only, back loop only of the back panel of the next stitch, and slip stitch. And I'm going to do this across the top where we did our shells of the shoulder. And remember, it'll be longer across the top if you did a bigger size than what mine is, because I did the smallest size available, the large. Okay, now we're going to go all the way across our shells here at the top, and I'll show you where we're going to end our shoulder. We're going to end in the last stitch. Okay, here's the shoulder. Remember, here's my last shell on my shoulder. Here's where we did the 4 single crochets in that space that kind of formed a little arch of the neck. We're going to stop in the very last stitch here that we worked in. We're not going to go into any of these 4 single crochets here. So the last stitch here is where we will end on both panels. They should match up. And then you just tie that off. See, I stopped at the last stitch on both sides. Tie that off, and we'll do the same thing. Give it a stretch. Tie it off, and we'll do the same thing on the other shoulder, but you just have to start in the opposite direction. So we'll be starting over here. So here's our 4 single crochets that we did on the neck, little neck area, the arch of the neck. We want to start in the first stitch here. So it always helps me to count up so I can see where I'm at. I'm sitting here staring at it forever. It's this one right here. Okay, and then the first stitch on this piece on the back. Go through back loop on that piece. And then you just sew it together the same way. You want to make it this side match the other side. So we slip stitch it across, going through the front loop on the first panel and the back loop only on the back panel. And we want to do that till we get to the last stitch where we put 2 stitches in that stitch, remember? We just make it match the other side. We stop at the same spot that we started on the other side. And remember, it's not going to be perfect. You don't have to worry about it being perfect. It's handmade. That's what makes it beautiful. Because it's not going to be perfect. Remember our stitch here where we put 2 single crochets in it? On both sides, we stop at the first single crochet we put in there. So remember, we're just making this side match the other side as best as you can. Okay. You got one more for me. It's hard to tell. That's why it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. So, there we go. I think that's about right. And then you tie that off. Alright. Now, let's hide any tails we got, and then we'll flip it right side out and see what it looks like. Alright, I flipped my work right side out, hit all my tails, just kind of go along the seam like this, push it out. And then I'm going to go around the sleeves and the neck, clean up them edges, and then we will be done. So for the sleeves, all I'm going to do is single crochet all the way around them, and the same for the neck. So you can start on any sleeve, either sleeve that you want. Okay, I'm going to start kind of down here where they connect. I'm going to go through the first single crochet on this one and the first single crochet on this one, and I'm going to single crochet those together. So I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to go back through both of those stitches, single crochet, and now I'm going to work my way up. I split my 2 panels. I'm putting 1 single crochet in each of these stitches. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. It's just, I'm just cleaning up the seams and the edges a bit. I'm doing this all the way up until I get to the shoulder area. Okay, when you make it up here to the shoulder area, I'm going to go into the first stitch here that's not sewn together, and single crochet, and then I'm going to jump over here to the next stitch here and single crochet. That'll kind of just close up that gap there and make it look a little cleaner. So I'm just putting 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way down until we get back here to where we started. Okay, I made it to my starting point where we single crochet those first 2 together. I'm just going to slip stitch into that first single crochet, tie it off, and then I'm going to do the other sleeve the exact same way. So make sure you do the other sleeve the same. Now for the neck, we're just kind of basically do the same thing. We're just going to go around the whole neck with a round of single crochet. So you can start anywhere you want. I'm going to start right here at the seam. So a couple stitches from the seam. Remember, we're going through both loops now. We're just single crochet. And so chain 1, go back into that same stitch, single crochet. And we're going to single crochet in every stitch around. When you come to the seam, go through the last stitch before the seam, and then just jump over here and go through the first stitch on over here and single crochet. Just like that. That way the seam kind of comes together, and then we just continue around, putting one single crochet in every stitch. Do the same thing at the other seam. Work around until you get back to your starting point. All we're doing is cleaning up these edges. Kind of just closing up them seams a little bit to make them look a little neater. So one single crochet all the way around, get back here, single crochet over the seam of the other side, one single crochet across the front, back to where you started. Alright, once you make it back around to your starting point on your neck, you just slip stitch into your first single crochet, tie that off, hide any remaining tails, and that's it. That's all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. I think it turned out okay. Wear a tank top or something underneath it. You could probably even use it like if you made it out of cotton yarn, like 100% cotton, made it long, swimsuit cover or something. I don't know, but you can do whatever you want to do with it, or however you want. But I hope you enjoy my tutorial. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Check out all my other tutorials. If you look on the right hand side of the screen right now, there's a playlist of all my other ladies tops in case you're interested in making anything else. So until next time, have a good day.